Today is Friday, November 22nd. What to know from the last day of public impeachment hearings and what's expected next. Plus, an unusual global shortage. Tesla's Cybertruck unveiled. What is smart skin? And Victoria's Secret fashion show canceled. Welcome to the Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. And that's a wrap. Public hearings in the impeachment inquiry into President Trump are over, at least for now. The final two witnesses on the schedule testified yesterday, and that means Democrats and Republicans are now plotting their next steps. We'll break down what that could look like in a second, but first, a quick recap on what the final two witnesses had to say. They were Fiona Hill, who used to be the top Russia expert on the National Security Council, and David Holmes, who's a top aide in the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. They both took the time to say they are nonpartisan with years of experience in foreign service. CBS News reports they're also the seventh and eighth witnesses to testify there was some sort of improper scheme going on that seemed to put the president's personal interests ahead of U.S. national security. Hill says she realized the ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, was working with others on a whole other deal with Ukraine, saying her goal was about national security, while theirs was about a, quote, domestic political errand. Remember, Trump and his allies are accused of wanting Ukraine's president to announce an investigation into the 2016 elections and the Bidens, in exchange for an Oval Office meeting and millions of dollars in military aid. Hill described the national security advisor at the time, John Bolton, referring to the scheme as a, quote, drug deal. In fact, Hill also testified to the broader impact of this whole thing. She criticized those who have embraced the conspiracy theory that Ukraine interfered in the 2016 election, saying fictional narratives and overall partisan fighting in the U.S. is exactly what Russia wants, and Russia is the real threat. As for the other witness, David Holmes, he described overhearing a phone call between Sondland and the president and hearing the president's voice ask for the investigations. But President Trump is defending himself. He tweeted yesterday he did nothing wrong, and Republicans backed him up throughout the hearing. They say his request for investigations was innocent and really was just to tackle overall corruption. And eventually the money for Ukraine was handed over with no investigation. So what's next? It's looking like House Democrats are ready to move forward with articles of impeachment. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the evidence is clear. Fox News reports they might draw up 4 articles of impeachment, possibly for abuse of power, bribery, contempt of Congress, and obstruction of justice. Nothing is set in stone at this point, but Republicans are preparing too. Reports now say the GOP is preparing for what comes after the House may impeach, and that's a trial in the Senate, where Republicans have the majority. Public impeachment hearings are now over, but this impeachment process is not. Stay tuned. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was just indicted on corruption charges. NPR reports he's accused of fraud and bribery, among other things. For example, prosecutors think he worked out a deal to promote certain regulation in exchange for favorable press coverage, and traded political favors for $26,000 in luxury goods. Netanyahu denies the charges, though. He says they're nothing but an attempted coup. It's been a rough couple of months for him and Israel's government overall. Israel is on the verge of holding its third election this year, since Netanyahu and his chief rivals have not been able to form the required coalition governments. Police say there were even more racist incidents reported at Syracuse University in upstate New York, and it adds to more than a dozen incidents already this month. That includes racist and anti-Semitic graffiti, racist slurs shouted out, and the alleged sharing of a white supremacist manifesto. Now the Washington Post reports 4 students have been suspended and 1 arrest has been made, but concerned students don't think the school's leadership is doing enough to address this. This has sparked student protests, and student groups have now come up with a list of 19 demands. The weather may cause some issues for people traveling this weekend ahead of Thanksgiving. The Weather Channel reports rain, ice, and snow are expected in the Northeast this weekend, with travel issues possible for those driving and flying. There could be some headaches early next week, too, in the Midwest and Northeast. And speaking of the weather, early snowfall in the Midwest is apparently to blame for what is now a global horseradish shortage. Business Insider reports the world's largest horseradish producer was unable to harvest about half of its crop because of the snow. And it's already impacted some restaurants. If you ask for zesty sauce at Burger King, for example, you might not get it. Supplies of the horseradish-based sauce could run out early next year. All right, we have much more news ahead, but first, let's take a quick break to thank today's sponsor. Ancestry DNA can be a meaningful gift with the power to connect families over the holidays. It allows you to trace the paths of your recent ancestors and learn how and why your family moved from place to place around the world. Only Ancestry DNA uses the world's largest family history databases to give a deeper and more detailed DNA story. After I got my report and results, I had a conversation with my mom about it, and I think she really appreciated my interest and questions, and I liked hearing her take on what I had learned as well. That interaction about our family history is why this could make a great, unique gift for the holidays. And right now, you can save big on Ancestry DNA with special holiday pricing and spark those meaningful conversations around the holiday dinner table. So give the gift that can unwrap your history. Head to my URL at ancestry.com/newsworthy to get your Ancestry DNA kit on sale today. That's ancestry.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. Tesla just unveiled its long-awaited electric pickup truck called the Cybertruck, and it definitely has a unique look. It's stainless steel, and CNBC says it looks like a large metallic trapezoid. And there was a demonstration at last night's event to show how durable it is. Someone took a sledgehammer to the body of the truck, and it did not even leave a dent. But when a metal ball was thrown at the window, it didn't go through, but it did crack. That wasn't supposed to happen. The starting price is just under $40,000. It'll compete with the Ford F-Series, which has been the best-selling pickup for more than 40 years. And keep in mind, both Ford, General Motors, and others are also working on their own models of electric pickups. The future of virtual reality could be the ability to reach out and touch someone, even if they aren't near you. CNN reports scientists have created a so-called smart skin machine to mimic the sense of touch. A team from Northwestern says it works by sticking soft, lightweight sheets of electronics to your body, which then uses vibration, pressure, and motion to make it feel like someone is touching you. There's still a lot of work to be done, but it could be used during virtual meetings, allowing employees to shake hands, or a child feeling a parent's hug through the screen when the parent is traveling. And there are many other possible uses, including medical, like sensory feedback for amputees. Well, after months of testing, Twitter is now rolling out a new feature to everyone, giving users more control when it comes to the conversations they start online. Engadget says users can now hide replies to their tweets if they find them offensive, irrelevant, or just annoying. The tweet will not be deleted, but people following the thread will have to go through an extra step to see it. This is supposed to help people feel more comfortable starting conversations on Twitter, though critics worry the feature will be used to silence criticism. The Victoria's Secret fashion show is officially canceled this year. The brand's parent company announced it, saying it's time to evolve the marketing of Victoria's Secret. If this sort of sounds familiar, that's because the lingerie company said it was rethinking the show earlier this year, but now we know it's definitely not happening. It's had declining viewership and bad publicity, and Victoria's Secret sales have also gone down. That said, it sounds like there may be some sort of new event in the future online. It's expected to be a big weekend at the box office, mostly because Frozen 2 is coming out. The Hollywood Reporter says the sequel to the animated hit musical Frozen is expected to bring in $100 million or more just in its debut weekend. And then there's also A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks. That movie is the one about late Fred Rogers, or Mr. Rogers, as most of us know him. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening and for sharing the show. I'm so grateful to have you as a listener. And I'd love to connect with you over on Instagram. I'm at Erica Mandy News. Go ahead and send me a direct message so we can meet and say hello. As always, you can read more about any of the stories we talked about in this episode right in today's show notes. Just go to thenewsworthy.com, click episodes, and look for today's date, or you can find them in your podcast app. We'll be back with much more news on Monday. Have a great weekend.